You will never be my Omega. Those 5 words were enough to change the future of 2 hearts forever. Prince Adrian Whitmore had spoken them with certainty, believing they would protect his kingdom, his crown, and the carefully controlled life he had built. But he never imagined that those words would become the reason the one person who loved him most would finally walk away. The grand halls of Valeria Palace had always been filled with whispers about destiny. For years, everyone believed that Prince Adrian, the royal alpha heir, and Noah Ellis, the gentle Omega from a respected noble family, were meant to stand together. Their connection seemed natural to those who watched them from afar. Noah was the one person who could calm Adrian's endless worries. He understood the prince's responsibilities, his silent struggles, and the pressure that came with carrying the future of a kingdom. While others saw only a powerful alpha destined for the throne, Noah saw the person behind the title. And that was why he stayed. Noah never wanted wealth, status, or a place beside the crown because of tradition. He wanted something much simpler. He wanted Adrian to choose him because he truly wanted him there. For years, Noah believed that day would come. He waited through busy schedules, postponed conversations, and countless moments when Adrian placed royal duties before their relationship. He told himself that patience was part of love. He believed that eventually Adrian would understand what they shared. The day of the royal ceremony arrived with expectations throughout Valeria. The palace was decorated with elegance, and nobles from across the kingdom gathered to witness a decision that many believed would unite 2 important families. Noah stood beneath the golden lights of the ceremony hall, holding on to the hope he had carried for so long. He looked toward Adrian and searched for the warmth he once knew. But instead, he saw hesitation. Adrian stood before him as a prince first and a man Noah loved second. "Noah," Adrian said calmly, "I cannot give you the place you are hoping for." The room became silent. Noah felt the weight of every waiting moment leading to this. "1. Adrian continued, believing he was making the right choice. He spoke about duty, responsibility, and the future of the crown. He believed that refusing the bond was the honest thing to do. Then came the words Noah would never forget. "You will never be my Omega." Adrian thought he was only making a decision about the future. He did not realize he was closing the door on the person who had always believed in him. Noah looked at him quietly. There was sadness in his eyes, but there was also understanding. For the first time, he saw the truth clearly. Love could not survive when only one person was willing to hold on. He had spent years waiting for Adrian to choose him, but perhaps he needed to choose himself first. That evening, Noah returned to his room inside the palace. He looked at the memories he had collected over the years. Every letter, every small gift, every reminder of the moments they shared. They were not meaningless. They were proof that his love had been real. But they were also reminders that he could not remain somewhere he was never truly wanted. Outside the palace windows, the lights of Valeria continued shining. The kingdom moved forward as if nothing had changed. But inside Noah's heart, a decision had already been made. He did not leave that night because he stopped loving Adrian. He left because he finally understood that loving someone should never mean losing himself. The days following the ceremony felt strangely normal inside Valeria Palace. The kingdom continued moving forward. The royal council continued its meetings, and Prince Adrian Whitmore continued carrying the responsibilities of his future crown. To everyone watching from the outside, nothing had changed. But for Noah Ellis, everything had changed. He still walked through the same halls. He still greeted the same people. He still carried himself with the same kindness that everyone admired. Yet inside, something had become quiet. For years, Noah had built his life around the hope that Adrian would eventually choose him. He had believed that patience was proof of love. He had believed that understanding Adrian's burdens meant they could overcome anything together. But after hearing those words in the ceremony hall, Noah finally understood that he had been waiting for a future that only existed in his own heart. Adrian noticed the change, but he misunderstood it. He believed Noah was simply hurt and would eventually recover. After all, Noah had always been patient before. He had always stayed. That was the reason Adrian never truly feared losing him. The prince thought their connection was strong enough to survive his decision. He did not realize that even the strongest feelings could become tired when they were constantly asked to wait. Noah stopped seeking moments with Adrian. He no longer visited the prince's study in the evenings. He no longer prepared conversations about the future. He no longer looked for signs that Adrian might change his mind. Instead, he began quietly preparing for a different future. The people around the palace slowly noticed. The servants who once saw Noah waiting near Adrian's chambers noticed he was no longer there. The advisors who admired their closeness saw that Noah had become more distant. Even Adrian began feeling that something was missing, but he could not understand what it was. One evening, Adrian found Noah in the palace garden, a place where they had shared countless conversations in the past. The sunset covered the flowers with warm light, and for a moment, Adrian remembered the years when Noah had always been beside him. "You have been quiet lately," Adrian said. Noah looked at him calmly. "Have I?" Adrian hesitated. He wanted to ask why Noah seemed different, but he did not realize that the answer had been created by his own choices. "I thought you understood my decision," Adrian said. Noah gave a small smile, but there was sadness behind it. "I did understand. Then why does it feel like you are leaving?" Adrian asked. Noah looked at the garden around them before answering. "Because understanding someone does not mean forgetting yourself." Those words stayed with Adrian. He had always admired Noah's patience, but he never considered the cost of that patience. "I never wanted to hurt you," Adrian said quietly. Noah nodded. "I know. That is what makes it difficult. You never meant to hurt me, but I was still hurt." For the first time, Adrian had no answer. He had spent so much time thinking about his own responsibilities that he failed to see the emotional weight Noah had been carrying. That night, Noah returned to his room and looked at the life he had created inside the palace. The memories were still beautiful. His feelings had been real, but he finally accepted that love could not only be about staying. Sometimes love also meant knowing when it was time to walk away. And while Adrian believed there was still time to fix everything, Noah had already started making plans for a life beyond Valeria Palace. The decision Noah Ellis made was not sudden. It was not created by one painful conversation or one difficult evening. It was built from years of small moments where he slowly learned that waiting forever was not the same as being loved. Inside Valeria Palace, everything continued as usual, but Noah began preparing for a future that did not include standing beside Prince Adrian Whitmore. He moved quietly, carefully, and without creating conflict. He did not want revenge. He did not want Adrian to suffer. He simply wanted to find a place where he could exist without constantly wondering if he was enough. For a long time, Noah had believed that if he showed Adrian enough patience, enough understanding, and enough loyalty, the prince would eventually see the value of what they shared. But love could not be measured by how much one person was willing to sacrifice. It had to be something both people protected together. Adrian remained focused on his duties, unaware that Noah was making his final preparations. The prince continued believing that there would always be another conversation, another opportunity, another day to explain himself. He thought time was on his side. He did not understand that time was exactly what had allowed Noah's heart to become tired. One morning, Noah walked through the palace with a different feeling. He looked at the familiar halls, the elegant rooms, and the places filled with memories. He remembered the first time Adrian smiled at him without the weight of the crown between them. He remembered quiet conversations in the garden and moments when he believed they were building something real. Those memories were precious, but Noah finally accepted that beautiful memories could not replace a future. He returned to his room and began gathering the few belongings that truly mattered. There was no dramatic farewell, no angry words, no attempt to make Adrian understand before leaving. Noah knew that if Adrian had not understood after all this time, more explanations would not change anything. Before leaving, Noah wrote a letter. He carefully chose every word because he did not want his final message to become an accusation. He wanted Adrian to know the truth. He wrote that he had loved him sincerely. He wrote that he had stayed because he believed in them. But he also wrote that he could no longer remain somewhere he felt unwanted. When Noah finished, he placed the letter where Adrian would find it. Then he took one last look around the room that had once represented his dreams. The sadness was still there, but so was a sense of peace. For the first time in years, Noah was making a decision for himself. As he walked through the palace gates, he did not look back immediately. He carried the memories with him, but he no longer allowed those memories to decide his future. Meanwhile, Prince Adrian continued his mourning, believing everything was unchanged. He attended meetings, reviewed royal plans, and prepared for the responsibilities ahead. He believed Noah would still be there when he returned, just as he had always been. But when Adrian finally entered the room that evening, he felt something he had never expected. The silence was different. The space felt empty. The small reminders of Noah's presence were gone. On the table was the letter that would change everything. Adrian opened it, believing he would find an explanation for a temporary distance. Instead, he found the truth he never expected to face. Noah had not left because he stopped caring. Noah had left because he finally cared enough about himself to stop waiting. The letter in Prince Adrian Whitmore's hands felt heavier than any royal document he had ever received. He had faced difficult decisions, political challenges, and countless responsibilities as the future ruler of Valeria, but nothing prepared him for the quiet truth written by Noah Ellis. The words were not filled with anger. They were not meant to punish him. They simply explained what Adrian had refused to see. Noah had waited. Noah had hoped. Noah had stayed until staying became too painful. For the first time, Adrian understood that Noah's silence had never meant everything was fine. It had meant Noah was slowly losing faith that anything would change. Adrian read the letter again and again, searching for a sign that Noah might return. He wanted to believe this was temporary. He wanted to believe that tomorrow Noah would walk through the palace doors and everything would return to the way it had been. But deep inside, Adrian knew the truth. Noah had not left to make him chase after him. Noah had left because he had finally stopped believing that Adrian would choose him. The palace felt different after Noah's departure. It was still magnificent. The halls were still decorated with beautiful artwork, and the royal gardens still bloomed with color. Yet something important was missing. Adrian began noticing all the small things he had once overlooked. The quiet conversations before important meetings. The thoughtful reminders Noah gave him when he became too focused on his duties. The way Noah could make the pressure of the crown feel lighter without ever asking for recognition. Those moments had seemed ordinary because Adrian believed they would always exist. Now he realized they were precious because Noah had chosen to give them. The prince walked through the palace that evening, visiting places that carried memories of the person he had lost. The garden where they once spoke about dreams. The library where Noah would wait while Adrian finished his work. The hallway where Noah always smiled whenever they passed each other. Every place reminded Adrian of a simple truth. He had not lost Noah because of one decision. He had lost him because he kept believing there would always be more time. The royal advisors soon noticed the change in Adrian. The prince who once seemed completely certain began questioning himself. He listened more carefully during meetings. He considered the feelings behind decisions instead of only focusing on results. The people around him saw a different side of the future king. But no improvement in leadership could remove the emptiness Adrian felt. Becoming a better ruler mattered, but it did not answer the question that stayed in his heart. Would Noah ever forgive him? Would Noah ever look at him the way he once did? After several weeks, Adrian finally decided he could no longer remain in the palace pretending everything was acceptable. He needed to find Noah, not as a prince demanding an answer, but as the person who had caused the distance between them. He traveled beyond the royal capital, following the small clues left behind by Noah's new life. Along the journey, Adrian began to understand something he had never considered before. Noah had not disappeared because he was weak. Noah had walked away because he was strong enough to choose himself. And for the first time, Prince Adrian Whitmore realized that the person he thought would always wait for him had become the person he needed to learn how to reach. The journey beyond Valeria's capital was unlike anything Prince Adrian Whitmore had experienced before. For the first time, he traveled without the protection of royal ceremonies. without advisors guiding his decisions, and without the certainty that people would follow his commands. He was not traveling as a prince searching for something that belonged to him. He was traveling as a person searching for someone he had failed to understand. After several days, Adrian finally discovered where Noah Ellis had created his new life. It was a peaceful town far from the expectations of the royal court. There were no grand palace walls, no endless discussions about tradition, and no pressure to become someone else. Here, Noah was simply Noah. Adrian saw him before Noah and noticed his presence. The sight left him unexpectedly quiet. He had imagined finding someone who was still hurt, someone who was waiting for an apology, someone who needed him to return. Instead, he saw someone who had grown. Noah walked through the town with confidence. People greeted him warmly, not because of his connection to the crown, but because they genuinely valued him. He helped others, shared conversations, and carried himself with a peacefulness Adrian had never seen inside the palace. The Omega who once stood behind a prince had become someone who could stand completely on his own. When Noah finally saw Adrian, the moment between them was filled with memories and emotions neither of them could ignore. But unlike before, Noah did not look at him with hope. He looked at him with calm understanding. "Prince Adrian," Noah said politely. The title felt different. Once, Noah had said Adrian's name with affection. Now, the distance between them was clear. Adrian took a moment before speaking. "I wanted to know if you were doing well." Noah looked at him quietly. "And now that you know?" The question was simple, but Adrian understood the meaning behind it. He had come expecting to find the person he left behind. Instead, he found someone who had continued forward without him. "You seem happy," Adrian said. Noah gave a small smile. "I am." Those two words affected Adrian more than he expected. Not because Noah was happy without him, but because Adrian realized he had once believed Noah's happiness depended on being chosen by him. "I thought you would come back," Adrian admitted. Noah lowered his eyes for a moment. "I thought I would stay forever." The honesty of that answer made Adrian understand how much had changed. Noah had not wanted to leave. He had wanted to feel wanted. "I am sorry," Adrian said quietly. "I know those words cannot change what happened, but I need you to know that I understand now." Noah listened, but he did not immediately respond. He had heard apologies before in different forms. What mattered was not whether Adrian regretted his decision. What mattered was whether Adrian truly understood the pain behind it. "I never needed you to be perfect," Noah said. "I only needed to know that I mattered." Adrian looked down because he knew there was nothing he could say against the truth. For years, Noah had given him patience, kindness, and understanding. Adrian had accepted those gifts without realizing how valuable they were. Over the following days, Adrian remained in the town. He did not ask Noah to return. He did not use his royal position to influence him. Instead, he listened. He learned about Noah's new life, his friendships, and the person he had become. Slowly, Adrian began to understand that finding Noah was not about bringing him back to the past. It was about meeting the person Noah had become and proving that he was finally ready to appreciate him. The days Prince Adrian Whitmore spent in the quiet town changed him in ways he never expected. When he first arrived, he believed finding Noah Ellis would be the most difficult part of his journey. But he soon realized that finding Noah was only the beginning. The true challenge was understanding the pain he had caused and accepting that regret alone could not repair what had been lost. Adrian watched Noah's daily life from a different perspective. He saw how people respected Noah for his kindness, not because he was connected to the royal family. He saw how Noah had built relationships based on trust and sincerity. The Omega who once waited for a prince's attention had created a world where he was valued simply for who he was. That realization stayed with Adrian every day. Inside Valeria Palace, Noah had always been introduced through his connection to Adrian. Here, he was known by his own name. One evening, Adrian and Noah walked through the town gardens as the sun began to set. The peaceful path reminded Adrian of the royal garden where they once spoke about their future. But this time, there were no expectations between them. There was only honesty. "I used to think losing you happened because of one choice," Adrian said. "But I understand now that it was not one moment. It was every time I assumed you would keep waiting. Noah listened quietly. He had imagined this conversation many times before leaving the palace. But hearing Adrian finally acknowledge the truth felt different than he expected. That was what hurt the most, Noah said. Not that you needed time. Not that you were afraid. It was that you believed I would always be there no matter how I felt. Adrian looked at him, realizing how much he had misunderstood. I thought your patience meant you were happy, he admitted. Noah gave a small smile. My patience meant I loved you. It did not mean I was not hurting. Those words became a moment Adrian would remember forever. He had confused Noah's kindness with endless acceptance. He had mistaken love for something that required no care or attention. For the first time, Adrian understood that even the deepest feelings needed to be protected. Over the following weeks, Adrian stayed in the town longer than he originally planned. He helped with simple tasks, listened to the people around Noah, and learned about the life Noah had created. He did not act like a prince expecting special treatment. He acted like someone who wanted to understand. Noah noticed the difference. Adrian was no longer trying to convince him with promises about the future. He was showing change through his actions in the present. But Noah also understood that forgiveness did not mean forgetting. The memories of the past were still there. The moment when Adrian rejected him was still painful. The years of waiting could not simply disappear. Yet Noah could see that the person standing before him was no longer the same person who had watched him leave. Adrian had finally learned something important. Love was not about having someone stay because they had always stayed before. Love was about giving someone a reason to choose you again. Before returning to Valeria, Adrian stopped beside the town gates with Noah. I know I cannot ask you to come back, Adrian said, and I will not ask you to forget what happened. I only want the chance to show you that I understand now. Noah looked at him carefully. For the first time in a long while, he saw not a prince asking for forgiveness, but a person who had finally learned the value of what he almost lost. Returning to Valeria Palace was not a victory for Prince Adrian Whitmore. It was a promise he had to keep. For the first time in his life, Adrian understood that words alone could not repair what had been broken. He could not return to Noah Ellis and simply ask for forgiveness because he was a prince. He could not expect a single apology to erase years of uncertainty. If he wanted Noah to believe in him again, he had to become someone worthy of that belief. When Adrian arrived back at the palace, everything looked familiar, but he saw it differently. The grand halls, the royal meetings, and the responsibilities of the crown were still there, but his priorities had changed. Before, he believed being a great ruler meant carrying every burden alone and ignoring anything that distracted him from duty. Now he understood that compassion was not a weakness. It was part of being someone people could trust. The royal advisors quickly noticed the difference. Adrian began listening more carefully during discussions. He considered the personal impact of decisions instead of only focusing on tradition. He asked questions he would have ignored before. Some members of the council were surprised by the changes because they remembered the prince who believed emotions should always come second. But Adrian no longer wanted to become a ruler who was respected only because of his title. He wanted to become someone people respected because of his character. Still, the greatest change was not happening inside the palace. It was happening between Adrian and Noah. Adrian continued visiting the town whenever his responsibilities allowed. He never arrived expecting Noah to welcome him back immediately. He never acted as if their past gave him any right to demand another chance. Instead, he showed up simply as Adrian. Over time, Noah began noticing the difference. The prince who once made decisions without asking how they affected others was learning to listen. The person who once believed waiting was enough was learning that love required effort. One afternoon, Noah and Adrian sat together near the garden where they had shared their first honest conversation after their separation. The peaceful surroundings created a moment where neither of them needed to pretend. I spent so much time thinking I had lost you because you left, Adrian said. But now I know I lost you long before that. I lost you every time I assumed you would stay without giving you a reason to. Noah looked at him quietly. Those words matter because they showed Adrian finally understood the difference between losing someone and being left behind. I never wanted to leave, Noah admitted. I wanted you to choose me. I wanted to feel like I was part of your future, not someone waiting outside it. Adrian nodded because he finally understood what Noah had been trying to say all along. Noah never asked for perfection. He only wanted to know that his love mattered. As time passed, Noah slowly allowed himself to see the changes in Adrian. He did not ignore the past, but he also did not close his heart to the possibility of something different. Adrian was no longer asking Noah to return to the person he used to be. He was accepting the person Noah had become. Meanwhile, Adrian faced challenges within the royal court as some traditions began to be questioned. Instead of avoiding conflict, he chose to create a future that reflected what he had learned. He understood that a kingdom could not grow if its leaders refused to change. And as he looked toward the future, Adrian no longer imagined Noah standing beside him because fate demanded it. He imagined Noah beside him because after everything they had been through, Noah would freely choose to be there. The relationship between Prince Adrian Whitmore and Noah Ellis was no longer defined by the distance between them. It was now shaped by the small moments where trust slowly returned. Adrian understood that rebuilding what they had lost would not happen because of one perfect conversation. It would happen through consistency, patience, and a willingness to prove that his change was real. For the first time, Adrian was not trying to convince Noah with promises about tomorrow. He was showing Noah through his actions today. When Adrian visited the town, he did not arrive as the future king of Valeria. He arrived as someone who wanted to know Noah's world. He listened to the stories about Noah's new life. He learned about the people who had supported him after leaving the palace. He saw the peaceful happiness Noah had created without depending on royal approval. This was something Adrian had never understood before. Noah had not become stronger because he stopped caring. He became stronger because he finally learned to care about himself as much as he cared about others. One evening, Adrian and Noah walked through the same garden where they had once spoken about their painful separation. The place that once represented sadness had slowly become a symbol of healing. The flowers were still the same. The path was still the same. But the two people walking there were completely different from who they had been before. I used to believe that if someone loved me, they would always wait, Adrian said quietly. Now I understand that love is not asking someone to wait forever. Love is giving them a reason to stay. Noah looked at him, surprised by the honesty in his words. Adrian continued, I cannot change the moment when I hurt you. I cannot erase the years when you felt alone. But I can make sure I never stop seeing you again. Noah remained silent for a moment. He remembered the person Adrian had been inside the palace. A prince who carried every responsibility but rarely noticed the person standing beside him. But the Adrian in front of him now was different. He was still a prince. He still carried the future of Valeria on his shoulders. But he was also someone who had learned humility. I need you to understand something, Noah said. I cannot return to the person I was before. Adrian nodded. I do not want you to. That answer meant more to Noah than Adrian realized. He did not want a relationship built on forgetting the past. He wanted one built on accepting everything they had learned. In the royal court, Adrian continued facing resistance from those who believed old traditions should never change. Some questioned whether a future king should allow personal feelings to influence his decisions. But Adrian no longer saw compassion as a distraction. He understood that a ruler who ignored the hearts of others could never truly understand the people he led. His transformation was not only about winning Noah back. It was about becoming the person he should have been from the beginning. Noah watched these changes carefully. He saw that Adrian was not becoming better only because he wanted forgiveness. Adrian was becoming better because he finally understood the importance of being better. That difference mattered. One evening, as they stood beneath the lights of Valeria Palace, Adrian finally said the words he had been holding for so long. I do not want you beside me because you feel obligated. I do not want you here because the world expects it. I want you here only if you choose me. For years, Noah had waited for Adrian to make a choice. Now, for the first time, Adrian was giving that choice back to him. And that was the moment Noah realized the person who once refused to choose him had finally learned how to truly love him. The future of Valeria was no longer built on expectations. It was built on choices. For Prince Adrian Whitmore and Noah Ellis, the journey that brought them back together was not about returning to the past. It was about creating something new from everything they had learned. The palace that once represented distance between them had become a place where honesty and understanding could finally exist. Adrian no longer looked at love as something that would patiently wait for him. He understood that love was something he had to protect, appreciate, and choose every day. The prince who once believed his crown gave him endless time had learned that some opportunities only arrived once. Noah had also changed. He was no longer the Omega who stood quietly beside Adrian, hoping to be recognized. He had discovered his own strength, built his own life, and learned that his worth was never decided by whether someone chose him. That was why his decision to stay was different. He was not returning because he needed Adrian. He was staying because he wanted to. The announcement of their renewed bond was not presented as a royal obligation. It was a celebration of two people who had found their way back to each other after understanding what they almost lost. The people of Valeria saw a different kind of future king standing before them. Adrian was still the same person with responsibilities and expectations, but he was no longer ruled by pride. He listened more. He understood more. He valued the people around him in a way he never had before. Many remember the young prince who once believed duty meant ignoring his heart. But the person standing before them was someone who had learned that true responsibility included caring for the people who cared for him. Years later, Adrian and Noah often returned to the garden where their relationship had changed forever. It became a reminder of how far they had traveled. The flowers remained beautiful, the paths remained peaceful, but the meaning of that place had changed. It was no longer a place of painful memories. It was a place where two people remembered the importance of choosing each other. Do you ever think about what would have happened if I had never left? Noah asked one evening. Adrian smiled softly. I think about it sometimes, but I'm grateful for what we learned. Noah looked at him, even though it hurt. Adrian nodded, especially because it hurt. If I had never lost you, I might never have understood how much you meant to me. Noah smiled because that was the answer he had always wanted. Not a promise that nothing would ever change. Not a guarantee that life would always be easy. Just the understanding that they would never again take each other for granted. Their story was remembered throughout Valeria, not because a prince and an Omega were destined to be together, but because they chose each other after they had every reason not to. Adrian learned that love could not be demanded. Noah learned that leaving did not mean giving up. Sometimes walking away was the only way to be truly seen. And in the end, the strongest connection was not the one created by tradition or expectation. It was the one built by two hearts that freely chose the same future.